All right, and I'm going to turn it over to you, gentlemen, as we have Gil Moore on the line here over to ET.
Yeah, this is an honor and a thrill, a privilege. AFR boys, welcome to the multi-platinum award-winning, from the multi-platinum award-winning band, Triumph. Multiple platinum albums spanning decades. I want to say 5 decades. Currently on tour with April Wine and the current Canadian leg of the tour, Steve. They were just in Winnipeg. They're headed to Edmonton, and they'll be headed here June 3rd, where we'll be going on a limo bus from the show. Gil, we can't wait. Singer, songwriter, everybody, drummer, Gil Moore. Gil, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm here in Winnipeg. We're just getting ready to shove off to Edmonton today.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, the Canadian leg. This is big. How is the tour going for you so far?
It's been building incredibly. We started down in Florida and kind of blew the rust off. We rehearsed in Florida, actually, and then after our rehearsals up at Metalworks, we went down there and in a bigger venue and rehearsed. But every show, like, we have a band meeting about, getting tighter and tighter. And last night's show was it was really good. I mean, we were thrilled, actually. And all of the shows, the audience reactions just kind of blown us away, to be honest with you. I know you've probably seen it on YouTube and so on, where, of course, the sound is terrible, but the video, you can see what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
People are really, really reacting strongly. So we're having a blast, actually.
I love it. Listen, we want to go deep. We go deep with music, and if you'll allow us to, Gil, we'd like to kind of go back to the roots of back in '76, and locally we had a high school band concert showcase called Rock Showcase here at Batavia High School, and it was big back in the day. I think a lot of people would be surprised if they knew that you, a Triumph, a 3-piece band, really kind of got your start that way as a band, and I not only take us through that, Gil, but also from the standpoint of that first concert in Simcoe, Ontario, because that's when you realized this band was going to be uniquely different, and that's special to me from the standpoint of, in Mississauga, you were managing PA systems for bands all over, so you know what great looked like. What was it about that moment that you said, this is the real thing?
Just the look on the audience's face. I mean, as you said, most of the musicians that, I grew up with, as much as you want to make it, it's like wanting to play in the NBA or play in the NHL. It's like, one kid in every 500-mile radius gets to do it. So most of the bands, most of the musicians, like, they're conditioned to failure, and, Rick and Mike and I were no different. We had bands, we tried really hard, nothing ever happened, couldn't really get an audience. And the difference, when we teed it up at Simcoe High School, we had rehearsed in a bowling alley in Mississauga for, the bowling alley rehearsal. It's some kind of workout facility now, but it was a bowling alley then. And, the audience reaction, it's like the complete opposite of, like, oh, they look kind of bored. Oh, it looks like they're heading to the outside for a smoke or going to the washroom or what. It's the opposite. They're crowding the stage and their mouths are kind of hanging open, It's like watching a school of salmon come up the river with their mouths open, and they go, why don't the fish have their mouths open at once? It was fantastic, really. So Rick looked at me, I looked at him, Mike looked at Rick looked at Mike looked at me. We all looked at each other on stage and went, what the hell is going on? And we came off stage, and it was like, have you ever seen an audience react like that? And we're like, no, what did we do right? So we were stunned, that very, very first gig. And then we thought, well, maybe we just, beginner's luck. So then we played the second gig, then, the next night, same reaction. And that was it. And all of a sudden, the bobsled was going down the hill really fast. So it's just a combination. I think most bands, if you look at it, pick any band that did well that you want and pull it apart and substitute, start with the Beatles or the Stones, and take Keith Richards out of the Stones. Would it have ever amounted to anything? Or, take Paul McCartney out of would they have ever done anything? And I think you have to get lucky to find what it's like chefs in the kitchen that make a certain recipe where everyone goes, the food's really good, man. Let's come back to this restaurant. I think it's the same principle with bands.
I love it.
Gil, Steve Pies here. A pleasure to talk to you. We're at Gil Moore here with WBTA 100.1 FM. Gil, you're talking to two guys who are Generation Xers who graduated high school in 1988. And our proximity, I don't know if you're familiar with Batavia, New York, but Batavia, New York is the midpoint between Buffalo and Rochester. And obviously being so close to Buffalo, being so close to Ontario, Triumph was certainly resonated with a lot of people in our high school at the time. So whatever keg party, whatever beer ball, whether we were playing euchre or whatever, the Triumph Allied Forces album was typically on, whether it was Lay It on the Line, Magic Power, Fight the Good Fight. Say Goodbye is actually my favorite song on that album, kind of a B-side. But classic MTV, also during that time frame, Triumph was huge. And for growing up in this area, Generation X, it seemed like at the time there are so many unbelievable Canadian musical, whether it's solo or groups. But it seemed back then that there were two, and it was Rush and Triumph for us. I know Loverboy was huge back in the 80s as well, too. But during that time frame, I guess, 80s to maybe early 90s, did you guys personally have a good relationship with the band Rush? Can you talk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, so, first of all, I love Rush, and I know I speak for Mike and Rick, too. I mean, those guys, I'm so proud of them as Canadians. We're very sad, obviously, to, lose Neil, but I don't know where to start with them. First, I'd say I'd start with they went across the U.S. border just a little bit before we did. And I've told people that have said, is there competition? I go, no, there's no competition. They're different bands. They actually kicked a few doors open for us. Hey, I like Rush. Maybe I should give these other yahoos from Canada, give them a shot, So I think Rush did us a big favor because they were really great. And they, and the fact that I think the comparison is as simple as, Geddy and Rick have the super high voices, and it was three-piece and from Toronto. So those three things, but the music's totally different, as you know.
Yep.
Alex is a great friend of mine through golf, funnily enough.
Nice.
He's done a bunch of musical things with Rick, which is a different relationship. But for me, the relationship is golf because Alex became a golf nut just like me. So we've had a lot of fun doing that, and I have great respect for Rush, and it's I guess we're the two 416 power trios from Canada.
Love it. Hey, Gil, quick question for you. I mean, that's what's I'm really curious because it seems like all these Canadian bands were really Canadian bands, and then. Really the overarching goal was to make it in the States, right? And even though it's another country, we're, from a proximity perspective, we're very, very close to Toronto. Nonetheless, Triumph gets its start in San Antonio, Texas. Take us back to that. Take us back to the what really was a unique incident in San Antonio at the Municipal Auditorium that really launched Triumph right here in the United States.
Well, that's a crazy, crazy story. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So we're, like I said, we got off to a really fast start in Canada. But I mean, we're still rookies, right? We're not ready for prime time. And meanwhile, our record is going through the roof in San Antonio. We don't even know this. We don't have a U.S. record deal. The record is just an import. But Kiss FM in San Antonio is playing our music like the national anthem. And what they literally call our record company in Canada, and they go, well, so we have this concert. We have Sammy Hagar, Joan Jett, and the Runaways, and Yesterday and Today at the Municipal Auditorium. Things really going well. It's almost sold out. But Sammy Hagar just backed out of the show because he's going to go play Madison Square with Kiss because he's never played Madison Square. So these are back in the old days where artists would break contracts and stuff. Nowadays, like that kind of stuff is unlikely to happen. So would you guys like to fill in for Sammy Hagar? And we're kind of stunned. We're like, well, we've never been there. we're clearly over our heads here, over the tips of our skis. But hell yeah!
Yeah, why not? Let's go.
So it was like the Beverly Hillbillies, you know. It's like we grab the old ladies and pack up the, Jed's thing, and I mean it was that ramshackle really, because we have no real road crew. Like we're playing in high school gyms and stuff like that, and nightclubs. So and we don't have the gear. So everything's rented down there, which is a production nightmare waiting to happen. And anyway, we fly down there, and we're wondering, well, I wonder if a whole bunch of people are going to want refunds or whatever. So we get there, the show is absolutely clean, and it's a big theater, like it's 5,500 seats. It's one of the biggest theaters in America at the time. And there was no refunds. As a matter of fact, there were people trying to scalp tickets left, right, and center. So we go out on stage. We're kind of scared to death, but we pulled it off. And like Jack the Bear, the place went nuts.
I love it.
And we got it's just one of those fairy tale kind of stories. It's like, you get in the big leagues and you hit a home run on your first time at bat. I don't know how it happened, but it was, I'll never forget it. I just remember being there earlier in the day when the gear's going up in the air, and we got no idea about how to get the lights, what we want the lights to do, and it just, the whole thing looks like a kludge fest. And yet, when the lights went down and we came out on stage and we started with What's Another Day of Rock and Roll, and we let it fly, and the place just went freaking crazy. And it's been like that ever since, and we're going back to the big arena on this tour to see our friends in San Antonio again later on in May.
I love it.
Gil, that's a great story. So we're sitting here in a locally owned radio station in the city of Batavia, New York, and we're looking at the Allied Forces album sitting up on the ledge, and we also have the owner's son wearing a Triumph hockey jersey with the Flying V guitar on there as well too. So I personally have had the pleasure to see you guys one time in the Aud in Buffalo. Do you remember that venue, the Aud in Buffalo Memorial Auditorium?
Oh, could never forget it. I mean, I guess there's a very close proximity clearly between Buffalo and Toronto. So a lot of times we would play Maple Leaf Gardens, which is the arena in Toronto before they built the new one. And of course, the Aud would be the next day, or it would be the day before. And then a lot of times the War Memorial in Rochester was the day after that or the day before. So that little, proximity there of Rochester and Buffalo and Toronto was really a great, kind of little neck of the woods for us, a little Bermuda Triangle where we knew everything was going to go really, really well. New York State was a great market for us, Western New York, and, all the way into, Manhattan and Jersey and all that. It's the Northeast just generally seemed to be very, very pro-Triumph. So it was a lot of good memories there.
No question. Those are iconic buildings. But the date was October 25th, 1986.
Do you remember?
It was I still have the ticket stub in my man cave. But there was the Sport of Kings tour. And I sat in the Reds in the Aud. The opening band that night, Gil, was Yngwie Malmsteen, pretty decent guitarist. And the promoter of that particular concert was Harvey and Corky. Now, I don't know if you remember the names Harvey and Corky, Erik, but Harvey is referred to as the infamous Harvey Weinstein, who went to University of Buffalo, if you can believe that. But Gil, in any event, and not only was Triumph an amazing band, but your light show back in the days was off the chart. And I remember you had this guy kind of come out with this laser face and get things going. And you opened up with Tears in the Rain, which is a song you sing on the drums. And I'm always fascinated sometimes, especially like Rick Emmett, like lead guitarists that sing. I'm kind of a YouTube guitarist finding my way. But the lead guitarists that sing and make it look so easy, and the drummers that play drums, you sing a lot of songs for Triumph. And I was thinking, Erik, other than Phil Collins and maybe Peter Criss a little bit. By the way, Karen Carpenter, I heard in the 70s as well too. But Gil, going back to you, you're a great drummer and you're also a great singer. And I was just wondering, did you have any influences that were impressionable upon you going into drumming and singing, if you will?
Well, I don't know. I always looked at that job as being a really bad job. Like, if you're on a construction site and, you get hired as a plumber, And then some guy says, well, how'd you like to be an electrician at the same time? So then then you put your hand up. The next thing you know, you got your right hand in 240 volts, and your left hand you're holding onto a drain. What's going to happen? So I just look at it as kind of like when you want an explanation for spontaneous combustion of drummers, look no further than singing drummers. I mean, it's
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy. Sooner or later you're going to blow yourself up. But seriously, I enjoy it. I'm still doing it on this tour. And the crazy stuff we did, like the laser face that you talk about, like our lighting director that we have with us, Paul Dexter, he's the same guy, and he's like got all this new technology. So the visuals that we're able to do now are really cool. And the guys, because the band is now, we got, with Phil and Rick up there, we got the double-barreled shotgun happening on guitar.
Yeah.
And Brent and I, like, the double drummer thing has worked out amazingly because he's a keyboard player, too. Well, he actually plays multiple instruments. He's very talented, but he will play keyboards and I'll play drums by myself. Or if I'm drumming and singing, he'll take the lead on drums and I kind of follow him. And so on and so forth. So, and then the guys have said, hey, now that Brent's playing, like, wait on this song, why don't you come down stage and just sing on the microphone? Which, by the way, is a much easier job, I must say. If I'd known now what I knew back, if I'd known then what I know now, when I had to play drums and sing, I would have said, okay, you guys have to pay me double. Because singing is a hell of a lot easier, I'll tell you that, without playing drums. But we're having a ton of fun with it. And, it's really given the band, like, a fatter sound to have the two guitars and two drums. Sometimes Brent and I are playing, like, synchronized. Sometimes it's asynchronous, but, one is following the other. And like I said, being able to sing downstage sometimes sort of freed me up vocally a little bit. So we're mixing it up like a tossed salad, but we're having a heck of a lot of fun with, the new ways we can approach our music, I guess.
Yeah, Steve, I thought, thanks for asking that question because it blows my mind. Gil, it's not just, the lead vocals, it's jumping in. You're playing what looks to be like a 1,000-piece drum set, double bass, and yet you're jumping in on Follow Your Heart. Like, in that, like,
love that song.
Where you come in that vocally, it's challenging just to sing it, but to be playing the drums, and you're not just playing a standard, hi-hat and snare drum. You're rocking the entire kit, which is amazing to see. But to Steve's point, though, the show itself, that was something that was intentional from the beginning. You guys really wanted to drive a show for the audience and really bring that bond with the audience, I guess, for a better way of saying it. That's something that's been a staple for you guys since the beginning. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the things, back to the bowling alley, right? All things started at the bowling alley. And I mean, it was when we were trying to decide like what we want to do and how we want to present the band, and we thought, well, we really decided on the power trio format. And we went, okay, so you only got 3 guys, and so there's going to be a lot of pressure on everybody performance-wise. So nobody can make a mistake ever because there's nowhere to hide. So don't make mistakes, number one. Number two, if we can have a show that really, really embellishes like what we're playing and really provides some theater around the songs, it almost becomes like a fourth band member. So that was the intent. The intent was we also thought a lot of bands were boring. There was a tendency, like I look back to some of the bands that like the Who that always like wanted to have like a big show. And there seemed to be a tendency for some bands to go, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to stand there and play the songs because that's fancy stuff. We're too proud to do that or something. I don't know what it is. Or maybe, we don't want to spend the money on it. Whereas we just kept plowing the money back into the show because we're like, no, we're here to make the audience go crazy, like make them love what's going on. So the visuals are a big part of it. I mean, on this tour, of course, we got all these tools that weren't in existence before, and we got massive video, and we've got a sound system that'll blow you right out of your seat. So we've always thought, make it larger than life, and make it so that the songs have the maximum emotional impact because you're visually going on a ride as well as where the sound and the music is taking you.
I love it.
Love it. Gil, I read that you co-wrote a lot of Triumph songs along with Rick. And I also want to talk a little bit about, you own Canada's largest recording studio, Metalworks Studios, which I believe is in Mississauga, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of read that more of your flair, if you will, you were more of a kind of a bluesy guy where Rick Emmett might have been a little more melodic. Would you agree with that statement as far as how you write music and kind of produce?
Yeah, I mean, I think, back to, the earlier part when we were talking about the chefs in the kitchen and making soup that people like or don't like. I think this is part of it. So Mike was a bluesman, I was a bluesman, and Rick was more from the progressive rock side, a little bit of classical. So when we first started working together, there's a real interesting blend, having two blues guys and with Rick's background, combining. It was unusual. And so then when we approached the music, of course, you have to blend those styles. So I think that's why, get back to luck, I think that's why we were lucky that we found each other, because it was that blend of influences and styles. We were very lucky that Mike knew how to produce records, because I didn't and Rick didn't. Mike was a little older and he'd had some experience in the studio, and he'd produced records before, so he knew what he was doing in the studio. I think the blend of styles, the way they were executed in the production of the records was very fortunate.
And you guys at Metalworks have had like the Cranberries, you've had David Bowie, you've had some unbelievable acts beyond Triumph. I mean, it was built for Triumph, but I have a couple of questions. I can't get away with one. I have to get one story in. Gil, like the guy sitting next to me, even Stephen Pies over here, is a AC/DC fan. Steve, little did you maybe know that AC/DC was the opening act for Triumph.
I did not know that.
But they were in St. Louis one time at the St. Louis Checker Dome.
Where the Blues played.
And there might have been a little incident between Triumph and one Bon Scott. Gil, can you take us back to that?
Well, that was you can't make this stuff up. So I'm sitting there in the dressing room, and all of a sudden I look up, and Bon Scott is at, and God rest his soul, he was a great singer, but this particular night he had too much to drink, and he was bleeding from his foot. He was wearing beach thongs on his feet, and he clearly smashed his foot into something. So he's dragging a trail of blood, and in his beautiful accent, with his all kind of he sort of sounded like Ozzy Osbourne eating mashed potatoes, And he's like, I kind of gather that he wants to punch Rick's lights out. And so anyway, Rick is kind of in the back of the dressing room, and I'm in between Bon and him. So I sort of stand up because I'm taller than Bon, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of look at him with a sort of a dead stare, like, no, buddy, that's not going to happen. And so the road manager, I think his name was Ian, he was with them for years and years and years. He's kind of trying to restrain Bon, and I'm trying to intimidate Bon. And between the two of us, Bon he goes out, and they're kind of, now he's got like a security guy pulling him, and he's got his head cocked backwards at the dressing room again. He's I
love it.
And that's it. I hope they got a bandage for his foot, but anyway, that's the story.
I was going to say, Gil, you are tall in stature, and you probably towered over Bon Scott. But I'm glad you brought up, as a kid, seeing Triumph for the first time, especially on MTV, and you'd look at Mike Levine, and he wore a St. Louis Blues jersey. I might add, everyone in the studio right now, we are mental Buffalo Sabres fans. We're huge hockey fans. But I always thought, why would Mike Levine like the St. Louis Blues? And then I thought, you know what? I get it. The blue notes, as in music, maybe it's that. I'm assuming, I hate to assume anything, all you guys being from Toronto, is it safe to say you guys are all Leafs fans, or do you have another NHL team that you support?
Well, I would say, you know what, I'll answer it in two ways. I'll speak for myself. Like, I support hockey generally because I'm a big believer in sports for youth. So no matter, even, when we went and played at the Stanley Cup Finals, at the request of Rogers,
Yes.
which kind of pulled this band together, right? And we're there, and Tampa Bay's there trying to beat the Oilers, and the Oilers are trying to beat Tampa Bay. And, we're pulling for the Oilers because we're pulling for Canada. But at the same time, like, I love the fact that there's hockey in Florida, and I love the fact I wanted to be in the NHL. I never wanted to be a drummer. I just realized at a certain point, like, all the kids I grew up with, we all wanted to be in the NHL. That's what we wanted to do. We played, ball hockey in the street. We all played on the local leagues. We played on outdoor rinks and stuff. But at a certain point, you look in the mirror and you go, I'm not good enough. I'm going to end up driving the Zamboni. So, you basically, at that point, you go, I guess I better find something else. So I wanted to be a golf pro, and then I proved I wasn't good enough at that. It was pretty good, but not good enough. And then I fell into, the drums. I was playing the drums at this point because that were part, but I wasn't that serious because of the hockey and the golf. And then all of a sudden the drums just took over, and I was lucky that I had a couple older guys that kind of took me under their wing. They gave me some tips because you couldn't get lessons then. And it was not like today where you have YouTube and the best drummers in the world are on there and they show you how they do their stuff. It was like, figure it out for yourself. And, I just had to, like, woodshed. Fortunately, my mom and dad were really, really great about letting me practice in the basement. And, they would, go to the back of the house and try and avoid all the boom, bang, bing and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I don't think I answered the question.
No, I mean, I got the gist of it, and it's funny you say that because I'm assuming you probably played defense when you grew up because you're such a tall guy, and it's funny because I always wanted to be a pro golfer myself, and then of course a rock star, and I still play beer league hockey as well too. But it's great to hear that kind of stuff. And
Gil, on the word of advice, I've heard a story about you and when you're putting and people may be standing over you and maybe giving. I'm going completely off the cuff here because I've only heard this. You have like a saying for people that want to give you a ton of advice on the golf course, or something like unnecessary or something like that.
How did you find that out?
We go deep with
we go deep, Gil.
Unasked for, unwarranted.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
I love it.
Gil, I have a son, Sean, who's a drummer. He left home at 18 years old. He's 23 right now. He moved to Nashville, and he's trying to figure it out. But he's a drummer as well, too. And a lot of people don't realize in music, it's usually the bassist and the drummer, which is really the backbone of any band. They're the pulse. They're the backbone. And watching you triumph, you're so big in stature, and you stand out, and the music that Triumph has just blessed us with over the years. Do you play any other instruments? I know you play the keyboards as well too, but do you play any guitar? I know you're in vocals. What else do you play other than the drums?
No, just I started on piano. My mother was a very, very good pianist, and two of my aunts were professionals. So I was around piano all the time growing up. And I had a very, very good piano teacher, and I was actually doing really well at it, progressing very fast, but I didn't enjoy it. Once I saw a set of drums and I just, I don't know, the sparkle finish, the cymbals, the sounds, the whole bit. And, plus you look at that and you go, who's going to get more girls? The guy playing keyboards or the guy on that?
That's the answer we were looking for. I appreciate that. Gil, if I were to ask you right now your knee-jerk answer to the question, the best drummer of all time, in your opinion, what would you say?
Oh, boy.
Well, you have to categorize it, So Buddy Rich is a simple answer.
There you go.
But like right now, like I'm into Eloy Casagrande, for example, who's in Slipknot, and the dude is amazing.
Wow.
Like he's what I like is he's got a great sense of humor, as well as he's like off the charts good. And what he plays is kind of like a performance of himself almost. It's almost like, I don't know how you play songs when you play what he does, but if you watch him, it's fantastic. It's like seeing something that you've just never seen before on the instrument. And I grew up with the Charlie Watts, and Ringo stuff.
Yeah,
sure. And so seeing this advance, I saw an interview with Ringo that was really interesting, and the question was, "So Ringo, how'd you learn to play?" And his answer was, "Well, of course I never learned. If I learned, why would I play like this?" So I'm like, okay, so like I'm watching this guy, and that's what he's saying, right? So, but that was the reality of it back then. Is you were following these guys. Now, as time progressed a little bit, let's talk about John Bonham. We talk about greatest players of all time. Me, John Bonham, like when I kind of got less, like sort of migrated from like what I'll call the blues into kind of blues rock, which is more where Zeppelin was. All of a sudden, I just started to love, Bonzo and what he was doing. And then, along came Ian Pace, and to me, Ian Pace is my favorite rock drummer. So I'll say that. So I'll give you three guys. I'll give you Ian Pace, and I'll give you Bonzo. Or maybe four guys, and I'll give you Eloy, and I'll give you Buddy Rich, and I'll say, doesn't get much better than that.
Love it. Yeah, the tour in '83, a massive tour, and what many people know as the Magic Power video was the US Festival, and take us into that, because the sheer number of people at that concert, if you know, and you see it, it's amazing to me. And I just can't even imagine playing for something that big, for a group that big, for an audience that big. And just take us into that day. It was a culmination of I think you played a million people on that tour, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it was a big tour, and that was Memorial Day weekend. It was the biggest day, Heavy Metal Sunday at the US Festival. And we just came in amazingly. I was on rental drums because we played at the Tangerine Bowl the day before. Was ZZ Top in Florida, so we were coming out of that, flew across the country, came in by helicopter. We're coming over, this sea of people, and we look down and we go, "Is that a show or is that a city? I don't know what it is." Crazy number of people.
Yeah.
And of course, we came out on stage and Woz brought us out. We were the only band that Woz introduced. And we came out on stage and we looked out, and you couldn't see the back of the audience. You can see out to front of house, and then you can see delay towers, and then you can see beyond delay towers, and it goes back, and you still see people, like sort of as the horizon extends. So it was exciting from that standpoint. But again, I don't get excited on stage. Like when I play, I just kind of go, this is a professional exercise. Like I got to execute. Like I don't want to make mistakes. I want to play the songs right. I want to sing the right note. It's all that concentration kicks in. And so it's like whether there's 10 people or there's 10,000 or there's, 500,000, to me, I guess it's from drummers being behind the kit and you're not downstage. That's how I relate to it. My little world is in that kit and trying to execute.
Love it.
Love that answer. Gil, on this panel, a lot of us here are self-proclaimed pizza and wing snobs. We're also beer snobs too. And I got to be honest with you, personally, I think Canadian beer is superior to the beer in the States, whether it's Molson, Blue, OV, Moosehead, you name it. But I've asked people in Canada what is their most popular beer, and a lot of answers I've gotten are Coors Light, which I find unbelievably hard to understand.
Oh, no.
Is there any merit to that whatsoever, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. That's funny because Coors Light is my favorite beer too.
There you go. Way to go, Steve. I feel like a real jerk.
Yeah, I always found that answer very unique. But we love the Canadian beer. And I got to tell you, we are beyond pumped up to our whole crew. We got about 20 of us coming from Batavia, New York to see you June 3rd, Darien Lake. We're going to be on a Labatt Blue limo.
That's correct.
I might add. And to see Triumph, along with April Wine right in our backyard is beyond thrilling. We're so glad that you guys decided to go put out the Rock and Roll Machine reunion tour again, and I can't thank you enough for doing that and for being here today as well.
Well, we're having a blast with it, and yeah, we'll have the Rock and Roll Machine will be right there with all the guns firing. So we're looking forward to seeing our friends in Buffalo and Rochester and Western New York. And there's a lot of people actually flying in. Like what I can't get over at these shows, like we find out this person's here from Germany, this person came from Brazil, this person is from California. Well, what are you doing in Eastern Ontario, or what are you doing in Western Canada? These people are flying in from all over the place. So I think we'll probably cast a wide net when we play Darien Lake. I think there'll probably be some Canadians
absolutely.
coming down. I think there'll be some folks, coming up from, the eastern part of New York State, and probably Indiana and Ohio and, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a great show. We're looking forward to seeing all our friends, that's for sure. And thanks so much for having me on.
No, we greatly appreciate it. Gil, thank you for bringing us triumph. You are, I'll call it, you are the onus behind the band. You are the dream behind the band. And we are so grateful to you for joining us.